What if the moment the world has been waiting for did not arrive through an interview, a confession, or a carefully planned statement, but through a single, unguarded glance? What if the truth everyone had only whispered about finally surfaced in the quietest, most unexpected instant? What if a camera, wandering aimlessly across a crowded event, captured an emotion so raw, so unfiltered, so strikingly human that it shattered every narrative built around Dylan's immaculate composure? This is the question that haunts fans, critics, and industry insiders today. A question born from a flicker in his eyes. A question that has taken on a life of its own. Because for the first time in a long time, Dylan Wang was not the untouchable star. He was not the trained professional with flawless posture and a well-practiced smile. He was not the actor who mastered the art of revealing nothing, no matter how sharp the spotlight burned. He was simply a man caught in a moment he never intended to reveal. And the world saw everything. The scene unfolded at a publicity event, one of those meticulously orchestrated affairs where every expression feels rehearsed, every gesture calculated, every smile photographed from a dozen angles. Reporters lined the edges like restless birds. Fans gathered behind velvet barriers, their voices muted by distance, but alive with anticipation. Cameramen whispered instructions. Assistants hurried across the floor with clipboards and untamed urgency. It was a room of performance. A room where authenticity rarely finds space to breathe. Yet on this day, authenticity made an unexpected appearance. And it chose Dylan as its stage. The atmosphere shifted the moment she walked in. Not dramatically, not abruptly, but with a slow, undeniable ripple, an invisible tide that moved through the room with a soundless force. She entered with a kind of grace she never seems aware of, the sort of presence that is powerful not because it tries to be, but because it simply is. She greeted a few people in passing, exchanged polite nods, then moved toward her co-star. The two shared a history of on-screen chemistry, the type that sparks debates and fantasies among fans, but never crosses into reality. Or so everyone believed. The cameras were focused on her at first, capturing her laugh, her gentle tilt of the head, the warmth in her conversation. But one camera, perhaps by accident or fate, drifted away from the center of the room. It scanned slowly across the crowd, and for reasons unknown, paused when it reached Dylan. What it captured in that split second defied explanation. He was looking at her. Not with the detached interest expected at such events, but with an intensity that startled even through the screen. His expression shifted in real time. Too fast for control, too honest for performance. A tightness formed around his jaw. His blink slowed as though he needed an extra moment to process what he was seeing. His fingers curled slightly at his side, as if anchoring himself. And then came the unmistakable moment. She laughed at something her co-star said. And Dylan's reaction changed. His posture stiffened. His chest rose with a breath he tried too hard to steady. His gaze flicked downward, not in defeat, but in silent frustration, the kind that happens when emotion slips before logic can catch it. The kind of reaction one gives only when the person being watched means far more than the world suspects. It lasted barely half a second. But half a second can tell a lifetime of stories. Within minutes, the clip surfaced online. Within an hour, it was dissected by audiences across social platforms, replayed with dramatic music overlays, slowed to the point where every blink became a headline. Body language readers broke it down like forensic experts. Fans wrote essays, comments, theories. And in the middle of it all stood a single truth. No one had ever seen Dylan react that way before. The man known for stillness, for control, for an almost icy serenity on stressful days, had been visibly shaken. Not by conflict, not by pressure, but by emotion. Jealousy. Not the jealousy of immaturity or rage, but the soft, aching, vulnerable kind. The jealousy born not from entitlement, but from attachment, from fear, from quiet, unspoken care. As the event continued, the tension became more noticeable. Every time she spoke to someone, Dylan's eyes strayed. Never too long, but never casually enough to be dismissed. Each time her laughter floated across the room, His expression tightened for a heartbeat before smoothing over again. It was a battle between instinct and professionalism, a battle he seemed to lose by inches. When the event transitioned into interviews, Dylan positioned himself at the edge of the frame, just close enough to glance her way, just far enough to pretend he wasn't. His responses were polished, but his focus was fractured. Viewers watching the footage later pointed out micro-expressions he could not hide, tiny flashes of discomfort, longing, impatience. It was a performance within a performance, except one of them wasn't scripted. Later, when the cameras shifted to a group photo session, something unexpected happened. She returned from a brief conversation, and this time, Dylan moved. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, just a half step closer, a slight angle of his body toward her, a shift that placed him within reach. Not enough to draw attention, just enough to ensure she would notice him. And she did. Her eyes met his for a fraction of a second, and something passed between them. A silent understanding. A recognition of the storm he was trying to hide. Then she smiled. Not the smile she gives fans. Not the one she offers reporters. A smaller smile. Softer. Knowing. And with that, the tension lowered in him, but only slightly. After the event, footage captured them leaving the stage at the same time. There were no dramatic gestures. No confessions. No confrontation. But there was proximity. There was a quiet exchange of words, too soft for the microphones to catch, too intimate for the cameras to interpret. Whatever she said, it softened his expression, grounding him in a way the earlier moments couldn't. And then, as quickly as it appeared, the moment slipped into the archives of unscripted celebrity history. But the internet did not forget. Because sometimes, the most captivating stories are not the ones choreographed for the spotlight. They are the ones that escape through cracks in the armor. The ones caught accidentally, in the honest space between restraint and revelation. Dylan's jealous reaction has now become a symbol, a spark, a lens through which fans revisit every interview, every pairing, every rumor with new curiosity. Was this a slip? Was this confirmation of something deeper? Or was this the first visible glimpse of feelings he has kept hidden for far too long? Whatever the truth is, one fact remains. That moment changed everything. It changed how people see him. It changed how people see them. It changed the trajectory of a narrative long whispered, but never proven. And perhaps, more than anything, it revealed a single undeniable truth. Even the brightest stars cannot hide their hearts forever. And so the story deepened, not with words, but with what remained unsaid. She had felt it too, not in the roar of cameras or the hush of polite applause, but in the subtle shift of the air around her, the pulse of it, a quiet tremor that matched his. And once she sensed it, everything changed. She remembers the moment vividly. The event lights blurred around her. Flashbulbs popped like distant fireworks. Reporters asked rehearsed questions. Actors laughed politely. But amid the noise, she heard something else, a low, steady rhythm of tension, the kind you only notice when you stop dancing to the beat everyone else follows. She froze for just a breath. The world slowed. And in that instant, she met his eyes. His expression was raw, not anger, not despair, not longing exactly. Something more complicated. A tension that stretched between desire and fear, between what was appropriate and what felt inevitable. She understood then that this was no fleeting moment. This was history being drawn in invisible lines, a silent agreement written without ink. She felt a flicker of guilt, guilt for having stirred something unready, guilt that her presence had cracked his calm. But more than that, she felt the weight of responsibility, because she cared too, in ways that frightened her more than any spotlight could. Her smile when she returned for the group photograph, the softer, knowing one, was not an accident. It was deliberate, not for the cameras, not for fans, for him, for what was happening between them, quietly real, slowly evolving. A small gesture, a heartbeat, a signal. That smile let him know. She saw. She felt. She understood. When they walked off the stage together, side by side, The whispers of the crowd faded into background noise. The silence between them was loud, heavy, charged. They spoke little. A few words painted in low tones, swallowed by the bustle of staff and assistants. Yet every syllable carried meaning. Every pause echoed with the danger of what might come.
She did not know what she said.
But she saw his shoulders lift, a slow exhale escaping him.
A release.
Not of all the tension, nothing like that, but of a fraction. Enough. Just enough to let him breathe. They parted soon after. Into separate limousines. Separate worlds. And yet the world they had just shared lingered, visible to them alone, invisible to the rest. Days passed. The clip continued to circulate online. Viewers debated. Analysts dissected. Fans speculated. Some saw love. Some saw longing. Some saw drama. Some wrote it off as overinterpretation. But behind every commentary, behind every frame, she carried a quiet secret. Yes, it meant something. Something unspoken. Something fragile. Something worth risking more than just image or reputation. In the sanctuary of her thoughts, she replayed the moment often. Not because she questioned what happened, but because she questioned what she should do next. Stay distant. Keep it professional. Preserve the facade. Protect him, protect her. Or step closer. Let the silence speak. Let the next chapter begin. Because what she realized, shockingly, irrevocably, was this. In that half-second glance, everything changed. For him, for her, and for the world that watches. There is danger in this. Public scrutiny, rumors, expectations,
Heartache.
misunderstanding. But there is also possibility. The possibility of truth, of vulnerability, of connection unfiltered by media filters or fan demands. A connection that grows not from staged appearances, but from real, messy, beautiful emotion. She closed her eyes once more and let the memory carry her. The soft rush of air backstage. The weight of cameras lifting. The quiet knowledge passing between two people who had never named what they felt, but had recognized it anyway. In a world built on image, polish, performance, sometimes the most honest moment is the one you never meant to show. And so she decided. She wouldn't erase it. She wouldn't pretend it didn't happen. She wouldn't run. Because some truths, once seen, cannot be hidden again. Because some stories, no matter how carefully you script, begin with an unscripted breath. For now, the world watches. The internet debates. The cameras wait. But behind the lenses and the noise, something grows. Something real. Something terrifying and thrilling all at once. A story not yet written. A bond not yet named. A path neither of them fully knows. And that is precisely why it matters. Because in that silence, in that accidental glance, they found something worth exploring. Something worth protecting. Something worth risking everything for. The documentary hasn't ended. The drama hasn't peaked. This is only intermission. And the next act begins now.